Hi everyone, and welcome to our first Messy Church at Home video. My name's Susie, and I'm the Messy Church coordinator here at Trinity United. And usually we get together in a big room and we make a big mess together, and we can't do that right now. So I thought I would make a video so that we can get messy together apart in our own homes. So this is our first video, so hopefully it goes well. But if you have any feedback or ideas for things that we could do in the future or themes for a video that you think would be really great, you can actually email us. The email address is just messy@trinitypg.ca, and that's the best way to get in touch with us. Today we're doing something a bit different than we usually do in person, where we're actually going to cook a meal together. Maybe it's breakfast, maybe it's lunch, it's dinner time for me, but whatever it is for you, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a frittata with leftovers, because our theme is a new start. So we're going to take some leftovers and we're going to make something completely different with them. So I brought my leftovers to church today. I have some ham. I have, what's in here? I have some broccoli that I roasted. It was very good. And I have some rice. So instead of just eating all of these things like they are, like I did the first time I ate them, we're gonna turn them into something completely new. We're gonna make a frittata, which is like a big omelet in your oven. What we're gonna do to get started is we're gonna take a pan that's gonna go in the oven. You can use pretty much anything. And I'm going to put parchment paper in mine. Because I don't want to have to wash this when I'm done. So this keeps it nice and clean. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and turn our oven on to 400 degrees so that it gets nice and hot by the time we're done chopping up all of our food. So the oven's on, getting nice and hot, and now we're gonna get started. This is really easy. All we're gonna do is we're gonna chop up our food if we need to chop it, or if maybe we're too little to use a knife, maybe we have something that we can rip up with our hands, you just wanna break up your leftovers into little pieces, like smaller than a mouthful. This is very exciting. It's like I have my own cooking show. Now you don't actually have to watch me chop up all the food. What you can do is you can pause this video now and you can go and start chopping up all of your leftovers. And when you're done, you can come back and we'll look at what the next thing we have to do is. Now you're back, we're done chopping up all of the food that needs to get chopped up. The next step is we have to beat our eggs. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take eggs and we're gonna crack them into a bowl. For a pan the size I have, like a cake pan, I'm gonna have 6 eggs. So if there's a lot of you, you might need to make 2 of these. You might need to have a dozen eggs, but I'm not that hungry, so I'm just gonna make 1. And once your eggs are all in your bowl, you're gonna mix them up really well with a fork or a whisk. Some people like to put a little bit of milk in their eggs. I don't do that, but you can if you'd like to. And then we're ready to put it together. So you're gonna take your pan and just take all your leftovers and dump them in. And you just want to spread them out so they're kind of evenly everywhere in the pan. And then I have some rice, so I'm going to put that in. It's a big chunk of rice. If you want, you can put some cheese in now. That's what I'm going to do. And then you just pour the eggs on top. And just kind of smush everything down so it's in the eggs. It will all turn out delicious no matter how you do this. So now that's done. We're just going to put it in the oven for 25 minutes. And then when that time is up, we'll be ready to have a meal together. So now it's been about 25 minutes, so we're going to check and see if our food is ready. And you probably want to get a grown-up to do this part because it's really hot. But you can tell that it's done because it's kind of puffy and it smells really good. And so we just need to put it down on a rack or a hot pad and let it cool down a little bit. And then we're going to cut it up and we can eat together. So now our frittata has cooled down a little bit. So now you can sit down and eat with your friends and family that are there with you, and then come back when you're done and we'll get started on some crafts. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of paper and we're going to give it a new life as a boat. So we're going to work together. We're going to make some paper boats. We'll decorate them and then we'll see whether or not these boats are actually going to float when we're done. So what you need to start with is just a piece of paper. Steal it out of a printer probably, and that's all you need. So we start by taking the paper and we're going to fold it in half long ways. So we're going to fold it so that the two short ends are together. And whenever you fold it, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you push down really firmly where you're creasing the paper, so that it's got a nice firm fold. So we folded it in half one way, and now what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half the other way. But once we do that, we're just going to open it up, because then we can see where the middle of the paper is, which is important for the next step. We're going to take the corners and we're going to fold them down to the middle line that we just made. So here, we took this side, we folded it down, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just like that. And if I'm going too fast, remember, you can always just stop me and catch up. Once it looks like this, we see how it's open at the bottom. We're going to fold one of these flaps up forward and one of them up behind. So right here, we fold it up and that lines up right with where the edges of the paper is from our last fold. And then just flip it over and fold the back side up. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to fold these little corners down so that they don't get in the way. So it looked like this, and then we just folded these little corners down And now we have a triangle. The next step isn't really folding, but you see how it's open on the bottom here? What we're going to do is we're going to pull it apart and fold it flat. So it went from being a triangle to being a diamond. I'll show you one more time. So this is what we had, and then we just want to grab those two folds and pull it apart so we have a diamond. Once we have our diamond, we're going to take these bottom corners and fold them up. So it's flat. Fold it up and then flip it over, and we're going to fold this side up too. So we had a triangle, and then we had a diamond, and now we folded this up, and it's a triangle again. And we're going to do that same thing we did a couple of steps ago, where we open up the bottom and pull it apart. So just the same thing as happened last time. We had a triangle, and we pulled it open, and we're going to flatten it down. And now it's a diamond. And we're almost done. This part might be a little bit fiddly. You might need some help. But see how at the top here these open up? What you have to do is you just pull them apart, and you kind of have to tuck down the inside, and it makes a boat. So I'll show you one more time. It was a diamond, and we had these two loose corners on the top, and we just pull them out and flatten it down. And now we have a boat. Now your boat is ready to float right now if you want, but I think boats look a lot nicer if we decorate them. So now is a good time, probably with pencil crayons or wax crayons, to decorate your boat. Maybe you want to give your boat a name, give it some stripes, and once it's all decorated, we're going to check out and see if our paper boats can float. So I have named my boat. My boat's name today is the SS Hope. I've given it some stylish stripes. And you might be thinking, Susie, that boat's not going to float. It's a piece of paper. You shouldn't get paper wet. And you're right, paper's going to get wet eventually. But if we've done this right, we put it in the water, it's actually going to float. It might be a little lopsided. If your boat's floating a little lopsided, you can take something and put it on the side that it's not leaning towards. This might not stay up straight at all. There we go. And one secret is the more you color in your boat, the longer it's going to float for before it gets soaking wet. So if you wanted to make another boat and color the whole thing in, that boat's probably going to float even better. So here we took a piece of paper and we gave it new life as a boat, and that boat can keep things dry and it can help things sail from one place to another, get to where they're going.
Thanks, Susie. I know my boat didn't come out looking nearly as nice as yours did. Our theme is all around new beginnings, taking something and turning it into something new, starting over again, and being thankful for what God has done in that process, recognizing all of the things that we have to be thankful for, grateful for, especially during this Thanksgiving weekend and Thanksgiving season. The story we wanted to share with you is one that you've probably heard before, but we wanted to share with you again. And it's the story about Noah and his boat and a whole lot of rain and a flood, and then what happens after that, the new thing that God does in the story. And so the story goes like this. Noah was a good man who obeyed God. Everyone else had become bad. Being bad was all they thought about. One day, God told Noah, "I'm going to flood the earth. I will destroy every bad person and thing, but I will save you and your family. You must build a big boat." God told Noah exactly how to build the boat. So Noah built the boat just as God said. Then God sent 2 of each kind of animal and bird to Noah. Noah loaded all the animals and all the birds on the boat. Then he loaded his children and their spouses, their partners, and his spouse. He did everything that God told him to do. Then drip, 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 drop, 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 it started raining. After Noah loaded everyone on the big boat, Noah closed the door. Then came the flood. Water poured from everywhere. It came out of the springs underground. It fell from the clouds in the sky. The water got deeper and deeper and deeper. At last, the big boat floated up off the ground, just like our boats floated. Everything on earth was underwater, even the mountains. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Everything and everyone on earth died. But Noah and his family and God's creatures on the boat were safe. They were safe and dry because Noah had done everything God told him to do. At last, after 40 days and 40 nights, the rain stopped. Slowly, 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 the water went down. The huge boat landed on the top of a mountain. Only the mountain tops were sticking up out of the water. About 40 days later, Noah sent out a dove to find dry ground. But the dove could not find a place to land and came back with nothing. A week later, Noah sent the dove out again. This time, it brought back a small olive twig. Earth was almost dry. The next week, when Noah sent out the dove, it didn't come back at all. Then everyone got off the boat. God put a colorful rainbow in the sky, and the rainbow showed God's promise never again to destroy the earth with water. And every time we see it, it reminds us of God's promise to keep making something new from something old, to keep loving us, to keep being present with us. So every time you see a rainbow, remember God has given us the abilities and the skills to make something new, to change the world, to start over. And that God's love for us never ends. And it really is for everyone. It doesn't matter how old you are or young, or what color your skin is, or how you sound when you talk, or how many schools you've gone to, or how many friends you have, or the size of your house, or how many toys you've got. It doesn't matter if you've got one mom or one dad, or a mom and a dad, or two moms or two dads. God loves all of us. And that's the promise of the rainbow. I think Susie's got something else that she wants us to do now. I'm pretty sure it's going to be messy because that's part of what we do here at Messy Church. So over to you, Susie.
Dinner or lunch or breakfast. We've made a boat, we've had a story, but it's not Messy Church without making a mess. So we've got one last thing to do, and what we're going to do is we're going to make some slime. So all you need is some cornstarch. So I have cornstarch here. You need a big bowl or a pot. If you make it in a big pot, you might make less of a mess. So maybe your responsible adults will appreciate that. And all we have to do is take our cornstarch, Dump it in. And then we're going to start adding some water. Now, I think that it's more fun if things are colorful. So I have some blue water. You just want to add some water and start mixing it with your hands. And when you're mixing it, you're going to notice that this is special slime. And when you look at it, it might look like it's wet, and if you push on it, it gets really hard, like it's not slime at all. Which makes it harder to mix. So you might want to ask the grown-ups that are there, or maybe an older friend to do the hard work for you. That's what I would do if I was you. The nice thing about this slime is you can't actually make it wrong. So if you don't think it's slimy enough, you can just add more water. And if you made it too wet, you can just add more cornstarch in. So this is what your slime is going to start to look like. When I hold it in my hand, it looks pretty slimy. It's going to drip, but as soon as I squeeze it, it gets really hard. So this is magic slime. And you might be thinking, how does slime relate to our theme today of new beginnings? And it kind of doesn't. But did you know that a long time ago, before there were people, before there were animals, before there were dinosaurs, the earth was just kind of covered in a lot of slime. And there were all of these tiny, tiny little organisms that lived in the slime. And they were so tiny you couldn't see them with your eyes. Mm-hmm. And they just hung out in the slime, and they were happy there, and they kept growing and changing, and eventually they came out of the slime, and they came up on Earth, and they kept changing and changing, and they got a new start on Earth as all the animals we know about today. Also, slime's just really fun to make. So here, you let it drip. You can try and roll it into a ball. What I like to do is I like to hold it until it crumbles. But then, when it falls into the rest of the slime, it just melts right in. So you can play in the slime as long as you want. You can make as much mess as you want. And that's the end of our messy church today. So thank you for joining me wherever you are and whenever you are. I hope you had a nice time. And we're going to be doing more of these in the future. So if you have some ideas for activities or things that you want to do with a messy church like this, there's an email that you can send any ideas to, and it's just messy@trinitypg.ca. And I'll see you sometime in the future.